Alright, good morning everyone. This is John Energescu with A&J Outdoors. I'm out here on Calaveras Lake. And I just wanted to do a quick video. I've done videos on how we fish and stuff, but I figured I'd do a quick one that kind of puts everything together for you. That way if you're new to catfishing or you just fish a different way and want to try one of our techniques, then you'll have this video to refer to. I use two basic rigs when I'm fishing. I'm either using a modified Sante Cooper rig or I'm using a slip float rig, which I have in my hands right here. We sell pretty much everything you need to set this up. We got line, we got weights. When you come to your main line, the main line of course is your line coming from the reel. The first thing that's going to go on it is either a bobber stop or some type of device that'll stop your float from moving up, okay? Because the float slides, slip float, right? What we have on here is the Wing It bobber stop, which we sell on our site. You look on the site, you look at them, and it's actually a plastic sleeve with a knot tied around it. You just slide the sleeve up on your main line, then slip that knot off the sleeve and tighten it onto your main line, and then you discard the sleeve. Okay? And that's just a way to get it on there. So after we put our knot on, the next thing we put on is a little bead, and this comes with the Wing It bobber stops. Okay, and what it does is it hits that knot and stops, and then it stops your float. All right, so that's as deep as I'm going to fish. So after that bead, of course, is our float, and this is one of our balsa floats that we sell on the site. And these ones are very sensitive. They're a good float for channel cats, but they'll work real well for crappie and fish like that as well. After that, we'll put on another bead. Now you can put on another one of the smaller beads, or we sell these type of beads also, and I put one of these on. What that does is it prevents that float from getting damaged coming down here and hitting either your swivel or your weight, depending on how you put your weight on, okay? So we got our knot, bead, float, bead. Then we have a little split shot on here. Now you can put the split shot below a swivel, you can put a sliding weight, it doesn't really matter, just enough weight that pulls this line through this float so the float will stand up. That's the whole theory behind it, okay? That's the end of our main line. It terminates at a swivel. So we tied a swivel on, okay? From that swivel is our leader. Now I like to use a short leader. People anywhere from 1 foot to 2 foot, but I like mine about a foot, foot and a half. Because sometimes when you're slip corking, channel cats are real shallow. If you're fishing in 2 foot of water and you got a 2 foot leader, doesn't leave you much adjustment for depth with your knot, okay? So a shorter leader is fine. This is actually about the longest I would go. It's a little bit over a foot probably, okay? On the end of that, good old treble hook. And this is for punch bait. If you're fishing with cut shad or something like that, go ahead and put on one of the circle hooks we sell, and those will do just fine fishing this way, or a bait holder. But I like to use a punch bait when I'm slip corking, so I got my treble hook on here. How do we bait it, or what do we use? Well, CJ's punch bait, okay? And this is his monster. He's got monster, he's got shad, he's got crawdad, all different flavors. We sell these also. So you can come to our site, you can get everything you need to rig this up. You bring the rod and reel, you can get everything else from us if you want, okay? And it's very simple. It's called a punch bait because what we have to do is we have to punch this down into that bait. Now, I got me a fancy gizmo here, and those of you that do gardening and lawn work should recognize this. This is for getting weeds out of your lawn. Paint stick with a little notch cut in it, a screwdriver, whatever you got. All you need is something to grab that hook, force it down into the bait, right? And then you just pull that bait out at an angle, and you don't need a lot of bait on there. That right there is going to be plenty, okay? That'll be plenty. And then all we do is cast it out and fish. Okay? Now before I cast this out, let me go over that knot real quick. When you're looking at my knot, you see I got I gotta keep that punch bait from getting on me, guys. It's not pleasant. Alright, so you see I've got these tag ends hanging off the knot. Okay, typically you cut those off, right? And you cut those off, so if I'm fishing in 10 foot of water, I can slide that knot up high enough so that my bait will get down in 10 foot of water. It will reel right into the reel and cast right out with no problem. If you leave your tag ends like this, it might cause you some problems. For me, the deepest I'm usually fishing when I'm punch baiting is 4, maybe 6 foot. So it's easy to retighten my knot if I leave the lines a little longer, and I know 4 to 6 foot deep I'm not going to reel this all the way into this pole. I'm using a 7-foot pole. So I don't need to cut my tag lines. So that's personal preference. If you want to cut them, cut them. The only thing is, if you cut them too short, those knots can loosen up a little bit to where you need to tighten them every once in a while. if it loosens up on you and you don't got no tag in to get a hold of to pull it tight, you're gonna have a hard time tightening it up, okay? So that's how we slip cork, okay? That knot, again, I move it up, my bait's gonna fish deeper. I move it down, my bait's gonna fish now on to chumming for catfish. Now there's baiting and there's chumming. According to John, baiting is I go out there every day, every couple days, and lay some feed in a certain area so that over time I will get catfish to congregate in that area. I see a lot of guides who are out here fishing every day so they can come out here and bait a hole, and so they'll use that technique. Folks who have, you know, their home lake that they're able to get out there often, rebait that area, keep the fish in that area. Okay, chumming's different. Chumming, I'm coming out to fish today. I got a couple spots picked out that I want to try. I'll go out there and throw some chum in those spots and then go back to the first one that I chummed and start fishing it. It's not going to bring fish across the lake to my fishing hole that quickly. What it will do, the fish that are in that area, it can get them feeding. Kind of get them in a feeding frenzy. You get the fish readily feeding, and then when you present your bait in there, you're more likely to catch fish because they're actively feeding. Okay. Basically, two types of chum that you see out there. Folks that sour their own form of grain, whether it's Milo or whatever, they sour it, stinks to high heaven, and then when it's nice and ripe, they take it out fishing, and that's what they throw it, and it works real well. Typically, you're not catching fish in about 15 minutes after using some chum like that. You fishing in the wrong spot. Remember, it's not going to bring them from across the lake. It's just going to get those ones if they're in that area feeding. Then the drawback to that is I live in a neighborhood where if I tried to sour some grain in my backyard, if my wife didn't run me out of the neighborhood, the neighbors would. Okay, so I don't do that. I can't do that. So I buy range cubes. Range cubes, you can get them at the feed store, and they're just that. They're used out to feed cattle out in the range area, but catfish will eat them. Okay, so you can throw them out in your area just like we did. Hit a couple spots and go back and start fishing the first one. The drawback to range cubes is they're just not as effective as sour grain. They work great, I've used them, but they're not as effective. So really, up until now, catfishermen had those choices, all right? Until now. Now, we got Chuck's Channel Cat Chum, okay? Comes triple sealed, so it comes in, you get it, it's like, don't detect anything. Okay, that's not bad. I can keep this in the garage, nobody's gonna complain about it. Open it up, definite odor, and you can tell it's grain. It's kind of dried, but it's soured grain, basically is what it is. About 15 minutes after you throw this out there, if there's catfish in that area, you're going to be catching catfish, okay? Chuck's been working on this recipe and fishing it for 25 years, okay? So he stands behind his product, guarantees it'll work. It's all natural ingredients, and we carry this. So when I came out this morning, this is the first place I stopped. I threw some of this chum. I went to another spot. I threw some of this chum. You don't need to use a lot. A little is better because you don't want them to gorge themselves on it and then not be hungry when you get there to fish. So it says on the bottle use just a little bit of it, okay? About 10 ounces, okay? Now, I hit those spots, chummed them, came back, set up my slip cork like I just showed you, and now I'm fishing them and I'm catching channel cats, all right? So that's what we use. We come out, we chum with this, we set up our slip cork. All right, we're back fishing. Now. I told you at the beginning of the video that I use two basic setups to fish catfish. I showed you the slip cork, which typically I'm fishing shallow water and I'm looking for channel cats. I want to do a fish fry, or some folks need some fish for a church fish fry, whatever. Then when I want to go a little bit deeper, I want to go after bigger cats, I enjoy drift fishing, okay? And I will have another video. I've got one out there already on YouTube about drift fishing. Maybe I'll shoot a new one. But what I'm concentrating on today is your rigging. Okay, so I got my pole, I got my line, I got some Power Pro braid on here. You go to our site, you can get 30 pound, I think 50 pound and 65. No, 30 and 65 pound. Okay, and this is the moss green. So that's my main line. This is a modified Sante Cooper rig. So on my main line, the first thing I put on is a slider. These are one of our sliders. We've got these, you can buy 10, 20, 100, right? While quantities last. We're ordering some more now. So the first thing on is my slider, and you'll see why that's unique. The next thing is a bead, and what that bead does, again, is protects now my swivel and my slider from beating on each other. Okay? A word on these sliders, a lot of people sell them now, but you got to look at them and make sure they're the right ones for the way you're fishing. Okay? I used the ones that use a black body. And after a while on my braided line, it would wear a notch in them and eventually they would break off. Okay? It took a while, they lasted a while, but eventually they broke off. And I don't want that happening. So now what we're selling is a braid-friendly slider. This guy will work, of course it works on monofilament just the same, but it'll work on braid and the braid doesn't tear it up like it does some of the other types, okay? So we got our slider, we got our bead, swivel, right? Then we got our leader. On our leader, on our business end, we got a A&J circle hook, okay? Snell knotted. Snell knot's important. It helps your hookup rate. Our A&J circle hooks right now, we have them in size 6 and size 8/0. This is an 8/0, okay? Perfect size, I think. I use 8/0 more than anything. Sometimes I'll go down to a 6 if I'm going to present a smaller bait, okay? Just above that, you'll see a small 2-inch float. All that float does is when that weight that I hook on here is on the bottom, the float holds my bait up just off the bottom. Blues and most cats prefer that bait a little bit off the bottom, okay? And if I'm drift fishing, it's following this weight and riding right off the bottom, okay? So that's my 2 rigs. I can fish this more than one way. If I, like I said, I like to drift fish. So here I'm going to hook on my drift fishing weight. Again, we sell these and you can make them yourself. You see everything on there. There's a bead, there's some line, there's a swivel, and some weights, right? We sell all that stuff, or you can buy them pre-made if you don't feel like making them yourself. Hook it on. I'm ready to cast this out. This is going to slide across the bottom. This weight is going to prevent snags. Now, nothing is 100% snag free, but these will snag way less than any other type of weight out there, right? They're flexible, they bend easily, okay? Beware of some, like they'll put them in a rubber shrink wrap, but then when you get it, you feel it, it's stiff as can be, so it doesn't slinky, right? Like a slinky weight should. All right, so there's our weight. That's a Sante Cooper rig. The modified part is the slider instead of having a weight on here. A lot of folks will just use our no-roll weights, and you run the line right through that, so you run it through and tie it on. But if I want to change weights, now I got to cut my line and put a new weight on. Maybe not a big deal, but if you're tournament fishing or something like that and you got a lot of lines you're using, it's a lot easier just to switch them out. So I cast my lines out, I got 4 out, I'm drift fishing, okay? Maybe I decide drift fishing is not working, or I come across an area where the cats are at, I hit them real well, so I'm going to go ahead and anchor up and fish that area. I don't want to anchor up with this, because once you anchor up any kind of current or anything, these things will roll around, right? They're not going to hold your bait in place. That's where that no roll that a lot of people use, that we still sell, works to keep your line. It's nice and flat, and depending on the weight you use, it holds your bait down on the bottom, or at least your weight. Okay? What I use instead of the no roll, though, since I have the slider, is these river weights. Do the same thing. That's what a river weight's made for. It's to hold, in a current, hold your line where you put it, right? So I got a river weight on there now. Load up my shad or whatever my bait is, cast out my poles whatever directions I want, and with a circle hook on there, I leave just a little bit of slack in the line, and I wait for the big fish to hit it. Okay, so that's what you've seen. You've seen our chum, Chuck's Chum. You can check it out at our site. You've seen our slip float set up, okay, or slip cork set up, however you prefer to call it. And then this is our modified Sante Cooper rig. We did not invent this, of course. A lot of people use this rig. But we prefer to use a slider on it. That way we can not only change the type of weights like I just showed you from a drift weight, right, to a river weight, but I can change the size of the weight. Maybe I don't need this 3-ounce weight to throw out there. I can put on a 2-ounce or a 1-ounce weight. Or maybe I need more weight. I can put on a 4-ounce weight and throw it out there, okay? So these sliders benefit me in changing out the type of weight I have or want to use, and it benefits me in changing out the size of the weight I'm using, okay? And that's going to cover it for today. If you guys have any questions, this will be posted up on YouTube. It's also going to be linked from our store site. Check us out at A&J, which is spelled out, outdoors.com. All right, thank you for watching.